Indeed, day and co. And of course, unfortunately, you do need to have, for individual cases, legal advice, I think. I mean, it's the only way you can actually get it done. No more questions, or? Yeah, sorry? No? Right. Look, Julie, or whoever is running this thing, I think you two here, you better tell me when to stop. Whatever. Right.
Is there any indication in your coding that relates any percentage of deaths that are related to the foreign?
No. Unfortunately, I was saying earlier on that I think information that the coroners have is probably like gold dust, but we haven't quantified that gold dust. We don't really, I don't know that we actually use the coroner's information. We haven't built it in. It may be that the Care Quality Commission is built in the coroner's information, but it tends to be, I think at times, fairly confidential. But sometimes they do give public reports. I mean, Tameside is a good example, and if anyone is here from Tameside, but no, Milton. The doctor, Milton Pena, was from Tameside, and I believe that there was it's got about the second or third highest HSMR in the country, and there was a negative coroner's report. Now, I might say about Tameside and Royal Bolton and I think Mid-Tass, but certainly Tameside and Royal Bolton are working closely with me to try and reduce their mortality. I believe writing to Wigan and Lee has done some work, and I've read that Mid-Tass is doing work, but certainly those two that I mentioned have. Now we've got one more question here now, I think.
I just wanted to ask you, what's happening in the future about the collection rate?
I didn't quite catch it.
What's happening in the future? We've heard that the government made a decision about going to a company in the...
Oh, yes.
Yes. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, okay, well, what happened there? I'm probably going to say things that are confidential. Anyhow. Tell you, yes. What happened? There's a large company called INS, which is throughout the world, 110 countries, something like 9 billion pound turnover, 8,000 employees, etc. And I happened to meet in India someone from it, and a couple of years ago, he said he could introduce me to Sarkozy's health advisor about getting defence data. And he was from IMS, and I then felt I sort of ought to pay back, so I went to their actual centre is in Hayward Avenue in North West Day, right next to my practice. I had patients in there for several years. And I went along there, and I gave them 2 presentations of HSMR. Now what then actually happened was that the government put out a bid for people to do HSMRs for electives only. Now, they used our list of diagnoses that lead to 80% of deaths of all conditions, elective and emergencies. But what they didn't realise is that in the electives, it's only actually 65% of deaths, and the electives are only 5% of all deaths. So they were putting out a contract for 3% of deaths, as opposed to 80% of deaths, which would have guaranteed that no hospital was abnormal, because the numbers of deaths would have been too small. Now, maybe that was what they wanted. I don't know. But I was at a meeting with Martin Marshall once, I think it was a year or so ago, and I said to him, this is quite unacceptable, and we're not going to have anything to do with it, Imperial College. What I then think happened, and I can't trace the exact, I believe they then, possibly through Martin, who was on the Care Quality Commission, I think they then changed the contract to the correct emergencies and electives. But I have a feeling we weren't told. So INS bid to do it and won it, because I'd actually given them 2 presentations about how to do HSMRs. Now, I think it's someone low down in INS that actually did the bidding, and they were sort of left with it. And I then met them. Actually, they asked if they could see me, and I said to them, look, you know nothing about this, and it's very expensive to do this, actually, and you're going to lose money with it. and you know nothing about it, and you don't stand a chance of doing it. And they said, well, we've been given a formula to do it from the Department of Health. I said, yeah, that's our formula, because we publish the formula. But what you don't realise is that the formula changes every month. And you've been given that month. I mean, because nobody at the Department of Health knows what they're doing about it, and no one in IMS knows what they're doing about it. And so they've tried to do it, but they can't get it right, because they haven't got, it's changing all the time. They haven't got the ability. They don't really want to do it. So what I said to them was, why don't you just ask us to do it again? And I don't know what's going to happen, but it would be the logical thing to do. That's one thing that's happening, but that's perhaps a minor thing. The second thing is that the mid-stats inquiry, Robert Francis, recommended, and I think very sensibly, that there ought to be a decision on how HSMRs are done. And so they've set up this committee. Oh, well, I'm a member of the committee, but they've got these sub-technical committees, and they're sort of looking into it. And I